even if you are the most bigoted racist, I don't know why you're listening to this podcast anyway, but even if that's the case, you want to get good profits. You want to be good for business. You should try and run diverse, equitable, and inclusive teams because it is good for your bottom line. You go to the bestseller list on Amazon and you scroll through like leadership books or business books, and it takes you till number 20 or 30 to find something either written by a woman or someone under the age of 50. And I don't think there's any that are both.
Yeah, which is fascinating because we make up a huge part of the workforce, but we're also the future
of work.
We're stepping into baby boomers' shoes as they retire en masse. The youngest baby boomer, I read this in your book, will retire in 2030. And so we're about to see a mass exodus of the workforce, and those roles are largely going to be taken by millennials.
Sorry to Gen X, yeah.
Yeah, we're skipping right over Gen X, right?
It's not our fault, it's boomers' fault.
Why is that? It's a short generation, though. It's a smaller generation.
It's smaller generation. I think boomers held on to power so long that these folks kind of got skipped over. I hear from Gen Xers who've read the book already and are like, you left us out, classic Gen X. I'm like, it's not me, dude.
Yeah.
It's not me.
It is so classic for them.
I know.
As someone else said, made the same comment to me. They were like, what about Gen X? And I was like, I don't know, but it makes sense to me.
Yeah.
So what does it take to be a successful leader uniquely now in 2025? Can we talk about that a little bit?
Yeah, I think part of it is what millennial and Gen Z workers demand out of the workplace. You know, this is the challenge that I heard. I talked to more than 130 leaders, including yourself, for the book about what it meant to show up right now. And I heard things like, you know, my teams want more out of work than I can deliver. I am managing people's emotions, not just their work. I have to think about how I show up in the office when the office is Slack or Teams and Zooms and group chats, not just a literal like facility. I have to think about how I post on social media, knowing that my employees follow me there. Even if I think they don't follow me, even if I'm locked down everywhere, I have to think about it. And I'm a caregiver, whether it's of my elderly parents or relatives and or also young kids. And that's a challenge that the bosses before me didn't have to think about often because they were older dads who weren't expected to be as present for their families, a whole separate conversation. But I think this is a challenge that folks of all genders and all sort of races and classes and types of workplaces are experiencing, where the demands on leadership are more and more and more, and the divide between work and home is more porous than ever. So it feels so much harder. And all of it is compounded by a loneliness that I know leaders have always experienced, but feels even more prevalent now because you can't complain to the people who work for you. Yeah, you can vent to your partner or your friends, but not everyone understands, and like you're putting more onus on them anyway. So the loneliness that I heard in these conversations just broke my heart and also felt so resonant.
The other thing you touched on, I think what's interesting is each generation is getting more diverse too, and workplaces are starting to look different. They're going to continue looking more and more different. And that was really interesting to me. It's just what we've grown up in, so I haven't thought about it.
I think this is so true for like, if you are, you know, under the age of 40, DEI, like, yeah, it's mechanics and like HR procedure and all of that, but of course workplaces are going to be more diverse. Look around. Like it's going to be that way. And so you should try and do it in a way that is most equitable and inclusive and effective. But, you know, we see this in corporate America. We've seen it with the Target numbers going down and the Costco numbers going up. Diversity is good for business. So even if you are the most bigoted racist, I don't know why you're listening to this podcast anyway, but even if that's the case, you want to get good profits. You want to be good for business. You should try and run diverse, equitable, and inclusive teams because it is good for your bottom line. It is also a moral good.